now require national biometric ID enrollment. Benefits will be restored upon chip implantation.
They're making us choose.
Open it up! We need food! Let's go! EBT don't work nowhere!
Power grid outages are continuing across the officials urge residents to remain. That's it. You really cut us off.
Mama, is this all we got?
To continue receiving nutritional credits, citizens must verify identity via implantable bio-ID. Please remain calm and follow the directions of registration officials.
Can you run it again?
Take it in here.
Did yours go through? All the cards are down?
Hold still. No chip, no eggs.
I just...
Move along, ma'am.
Come on, baby. Mama? Is this all we got?
Hold out your wrist. Next, hold out your wrist.
I don't want it.
Then you won't eat. They said it'd come. We just didn't know it'd be like this.
All public benefit systems will now require national biometric ID enrollment. Benefits will be restored upon chip implantation.
They're making us choose.
Yep.
Utah has a plan to deal with homelessness, lining up behind President Trump's belief that people should not be allowed to sleep on the streets. State officials say they're preparing to pull more than 1,000 homeless people out of Salt Lake City and into a sprawling campus on the outskirts of town. Supporters call it a place where people can get the services they need. Critics call it a detention camp. Joining us now, New York Times reporter Ellen Berry, who filed that piece from Salt Lake City. So what exactly is this campus, this camp?
So for now, this is still in its planning stages. It hasn't been built, but it is definitely an effort to kind of operationalize the president's executive order from the summer, which said that overwhelmingly homeless people are suffering from mental illness or addiction, and overwhelmingly they should be put into long-term institutional care. That is a reversal of our long-standing approach to homelessness, which is prioritized housing. So this plan is a very large facility that would be devoted in large part to treatment of psychiatric and substance abuse disorders.
So it's kind of, you could argue, bringing back mental health institutions, which had fallen out of favor. There are arguments on both sides of this, as you well know, as you've reported. There are people who say it is not a good idea to let people suffer on the streets, that some people really do need help and they're not capable of getting themselves that help. And there are others that say if you force them into an institution or a camp or a campus, whatever you want to call it, and you don't allow them to leave, you violate their civil rights, you violate their free will. Do we have a sense of what this campus, if it's actually going to be staffed, if it's actually going to have the resources they need, and how it's going to be funded?
There are lots of questions, and those are some of the most important ones. The proposal, as I understood it, is actually a hybrid with about 1/3 of the beds, a kind of low barrier shelter. So that would be presumably voluntary. And the other 2/3, 800 beds, would be involuntary, either through civil commitment procedures or a diversion program through the courts. So you're sort of looking at a large facility that is in part involuntary and in part voluntary.
Do we know who's paying for this?
Well, it would have to be the Utah legislature, and that is a big question mark, whether there is going to be willingness to fund it. And I think the fear is that if this ball gets rolling and the services are not funded, then it becomes much more of a warehousing type facility and less of a treatment facility. So this is what is not yet clear. It's expensive to create psychiatric beds, and across the country we have a shortage of psychiatric beds for that reason. So expanding psychiatric treatment in this way would be extraordinarily expensive.
Yeah. Ellen Berry. Ellen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Joining us now, Utah State Senator. She was featured in that piece, Jen Plum, a Democrat who represents Salt Lake City. She's also an ER physician. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
What are your concerns?
You know, this is a space that I have been passionate about and touched by for decades, starting with my own brother facing heroin dependence and addiction and ultimately losing him to that. And then coming into the space as a clinician and an advocate, and now as an elected person, I think that I share the hopes that many of those thinking in this space are, and then that is what we can get people better lives, and that we can do things with policy that will get people into spaces where they aren't living in such desperation. But seeing this proposal and seeing it come from a homeless services board that doesn't have a single medical person on it to represent what it would take, I'm worried that these good intentions have the potential to lead to wasted time, wasted money, and violations of people's civil liberties. So for me, that's kind of the, in a nutshell, concerns that I have.
That is a good point. And again, I think it's important to remember that there are people that do really need help and are struggling, and there are family members who want their loved ones to get the help that they need. And sometimes, in some cases, voluntary is not necessarily an option. That being said, you are a part of the legislature and you've expressed your concerns. Is there a way to amend any legislation that might come up to make it so that it's mandatory to have a certain number of healthcare professionals, of addiction professionals, psychiatric professionals on staff and there every year in order to make sure that these places don't become detention centers?
I think that's really a crucial point. And how much of that happens in policy and code versus how much of that happens in planning, that all remains to be seen. You know, we've almost hit this inflection point where folks are saying, oh, housing first didn't work. Now we need this treatment first model. And for me, I don't see it that there's opposing camps. I see it that there's the same needs for people. And for me, housing first was supposed to mean get a roof over people's head first, and then get them the treatment they need, the supports they need, the case management they need, the education they need. Housing first, for me, that's what that meant, and then build upon. But our systems didn't necessarily fund those resources, right? So we call it a failure when really it wasn't the structure or the system so much as the resources there.
Yeah.
We're not that far apart on what people need. Where our chasm is the expectation of whether or not we can force people into it or not. I personally know from a fact, from a family member and from a clinician, you cannot force people into wellness. You have to provide an environment that supports them, and they have to want it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's also, I mean, when the institutions were dismantled, there was an idea that they weren't safe spaces, they weren't helpful, and that it would be better for people to be in the community and be treated in the community so they could be closer to family and they could recover and become a functioning part of society. It was that second step that never got followed through on, which has led us to where we are today. Do you have a partner in the legislature right now that is willing to try to put this down on paper to make sure that if this facility does go online, that it can actually be a model of success rather than just another, failed attempt to solve a complicated problem?
You know, I think that there are a number of partners that I can look to, and that I hope we have the kind of collaborative relationships where we can go head on at this as a problem, right? Not as a political problem, but as an actual human problem and as an actual policy response problem. I think we've got to have some honesty about what this is going to cost to build it. I personally don't believe a structure of 14 buildings can be built for $75 million. I know that staffing that facility will take more than $34 million a year. So I think we need to start with some kind of transparency about what it's really going to cost if we're going to try to do something like this. But personally, my hope is that we can get minds together with subject matter expertise and understanding. Good intentions that are ill-informed don't help people. They just waste money and they waste time. So my hope is I can find those partners, that our system can come together, not to battle, but to support one another. And let's actually do what's right by people, not just make a splash.
The state of Utah announced its new plan for a services campus on the west side of Salt Lake City, literal mosquito swampland, where it plans to have 1,300 unhoused people, but people that care about people have classified this as a detention camp. After a very secretive search, the Homeless Services Board announced this new campus. The new head of this organization is a guy named Randy Shumway, who is a consultant turned homelessness czar. And this new service center is going to have an involuntary accountability center, and that includes 400 psychiatric beds for court-ordered treatment for mental illness, 400 addiction recovery beds as alternatives to jail, and this is all going to be run by law enforcement quote-unquote rescue teams that will find people that are homeless and offer them a choice. You can either go to court or go to this campus. And this center, you cannot come and go on your own. You have to stay there. It's essentially a prison, another prison.
Donald Trump issued an executive order that called for strict camping bans, expanded power to involuntarily treat homeless individuals, and the creation of large tent cities on cheap land. Governor Cox was very excited by this executive order, and he immediately told state leaders and cities to follow it. Utah has been a somewhat pioneer in addressing homelessness. We first approached this through what they called the housing first model, where we reduced homelessness by getting people into housing before addressing addiction or mental illness. We are apparently pioneering the next iteration, which they are calling the treatment first approach, tying basic shelter to compliant sobriety and submission. So the New York Times, in the piece that they released this week, interviewed some homeless folks in Pioneer Park, and one of them said, okay, so straight up, this reminds me of a concentration camp.
The cost for this services campus has a price tag of $75 million just for the construction. And it's going to cost $34 million annually to operate. And don't worry, we are a fiscally conservative state. We're just going to cannibalize current housing efforts instead of putting more money into solving this very important problem. Josh Romney, son of Mitt Romney, cautioned the state, saying that diverting $17 million from these other organizations will increase homelessness. He said we're going to be pulling people out of housing and into homelessness because of this plan.
On October 30th, Governor Cox named Representative Tyler Clancy as the next state's homelessness coordinator. Tyler Clancy is not a homelessness expert. He is not an addiction treatment expert. He's not a social worker. He's not anything in the field of homelessness. Tyler Clancy is a cop. This is a sign that Governor Cox wants to treat homelessness with law enforcement and compliance. Tyler Clancy was the former executive director of the Pioneer Park Coalition, who renamed themselves Solutions Utah. Their entire approach to homelessness was often get help or go to jail, which sounds familiar to all of this. As a legislator, Tyler Clancy has spent his last 2 legislative sessions building policy that follows that exact same approach. So now our entire homelessness strategy is in the hands of law enforcement rather than local government. Tyler Clancy plans to resign from the legislature after the 2026 legislative session, and then his seat will be up. That is a more competitive district than one might think. It's in the Provo area.
The new surge of interest on Utah's homelessness plan comes at a really critical point in Utah. We had an 18% increase in a single year. That is the largest jump that we have seen in recent history. A lot of the reason that this has happened is because of rising housing costs, stagnated wages, underfunded mental health and substance use disorder treatments. And on top of that, we are seeing people losing their SNAP benefits, people losing their Medicaid and Medicare, people's health insurance going up. All kinds of things that are going to push more people into homelessness. And now we are seeing Utah treating homelessness like a crime and essentially putting people into a prison in the middle of nowhere if they are homeless. These are the repercussions of the choices that people make in office and who we vote for. When talking about this new campus, Governor Cox said this is a statement of who we are as a state. And he is exactly right about that. When we talk about people that are homeless like they are problems to be solved, or every one of them has mental illness or substance use disorder, or it's their own fault for not working hard enough, we are doing a huge disservice not only to ourselves, but to our neighbors. You know more people than you think you do that are one financial incident away from being homeless. A lot of people that are on food assistance that you have no idea are on food assistance. These are our neighbors, these are our friends, these are our family members, and continuing to not treat people that are homeless with any sort of dignity or compassion or respect at all leads to this kind of model where they are involuntarily locked up and forced to be in a place that they do not want to be in. And that should be frightening to everyone in this country, frankly.
They want to put up more of these alligator Alcatraz style mega tent sprung structure type facilities. They've got the kind of pilot project for that in Utah, where the governor has said, we are going to completely support and implement Trump's executive order. And just last week, their homelessness board, which was created by some Cicero legislation, they passed a plan for a 1,300 person megatent camp 7 miles outside of downtown in the middle of nowhere, no public transportation. 300 beds are going to be involuntarily committed, locked facilities. Another set of beds are going to be no voluntary entry or exit. It's going to be where you get sent for jail diversion. And then the rest of the beds, even though theoretically you could come and go, they're going to be actively enforcing anti-camping, anti-loitering, all these other laws. The thing that scares me the most is that they say some of these units are going to be work-conditioned housing, which to me means forced labor. And we've seen some of these other bills introduced at the state level that also have this forced labor element to them in Louisiana and West Virginia. To my eyes, I see them kicking out all the undocumented, low-paid labor out of the country. Gotta make up for it somewhere.
Well, this isn't extremely fucking disturbing. Utah is literally building a compound to involuntarily hold homeless Americans. 16 acres, 1,300 people. Locked behind gates. And they're calling this shit care. This is not compassion, y'all. This is containment. Instead of building affordable housing, instead of wages where people can actually live on, they're building a camp to hide the poverty. How the fuck is this a solution? We do not deserve a government that solves problems by disappearing people. We deserve safety, housing, support, not fence lines and fucking barbed wire. The more we normalize this, the closer we slide into history that we swore we would never repeat. Pay attention, man, because this is happening on United States soil, y'all. And if this becomes normal in one state, how long before every state adopts it? This is not about helping people, man. It's about getting them the fuck out of sight.
Subscribe to Corin's World, where you can see the live Kyle and Corin episodes. Come hang out with us on Monday nights at 8. So Law Center explains how billionaire-backed policies are turning homelessness into a human rights crisis. So here we go. Shout out to the Invisible People Twitter account here. It's at Invisible People. Everybody go check them out and listen to this little clip. This is one of the most terrifying 1 minute and 23 second clips I've ever heard. Watch.
They want to put up more of these alligator Alcatraz style mega tent sprung structure type facilities. They've got the kind of pilot project for that in Utah, where the governor has said, we are going to completely support and implement Trump's executive order. And just last week, their homelessness board, which was created by some Cicero legislation, they passed a plan for a 1,300 person megatent camp 7 miles outside of downtown in the middle of nowhere, no public transportation. 300 beds are going to be involuntarily committed, locked facilities. Another set of beds are going to be no voluntary entry or exit. It's going to be where you get sent for jail diversion. And then the rest of the beds, even though theoretically you could come and go, they're going to be actively enforcing anti-camping, anti-loitering, all these other laws. The thing that scares me the most is that they say some of these units are going to be work-conditioned housing, which to me means forced labor. And we've seen some of these other bills introduced at the state level that also have this forced labor element to them in Louisiana and West Virginia. To my eyes, I see them kicking out all the undocumented, low-paid labor.
Gotta make up for it somewhere.
Gotta make up for it somewhere.
So do you understand what he's saying there? He's saying, well, they're rounding up all of the undocumented immigrants, and in many cases, documented immigrants, and in many cases, non-criminal immigrants, rounding them up, sending a bunch of them to El Salvador, to the slave labor camp there. That's what they did. Trump wanted to send 30,000 to Gitmo, wanted to send a bunch to Alligator Alcatraz, as we call it, Alligator Auschwitz. Kick them out, put them in Eswatini, put them in Libya and Liberia. So that's what they were doing. But what do you do in a scenario where now there's a worker shortage? Because every time this has happened, there's been a worker shortage. We have fucking fields of crops that aren't being picked because of this worker shortage. We're told, Americans will come and they'll take all those jobs, and I don't know what you're talking about. Of course they'll fill those shoes. And then they don't. We've had experience with this with Alabama. Similar thing happened there. They did a massive crackdown and self-deportation type thing, and then you didn't have Americans fill those jobs. So those people are gone, and then now you have a shortage of labor, and what he's describing here is, what if they went around, rounded up all of the homeless people, forced them against their will into these massive concentration camps, and then forced them to do work, effectively slave labor? I mean, it sounds crazy, it sounds extreme, but it also is par for the course when talking about this government. I mean,
dude, this government does not change. Esau Edom does not change. Okay, let's go get it. Psalms chapter 55. Okay, verse 19. God, who has ruled forever, will hear me and humble them, Selah. For my enemies refuse to change their ways. They do not fear God. Okay? All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rahawah Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching me this truth, how to break these biblical scriptures down, who rule well, as it is written in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 17. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect that have been scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom. This is Matazah Lacham. I was skimming through the 2 or 3 videos, and they all made sense, all pertaining to the same thing, and what Kyle Kalinske at the end of the video that you just seen was saying. In order to cure the farmers' problem, as far as getting food picked, and since Bill Gates owns 75% of American farmland, in order to please Bill Gates, pick up all the homeless and make them pick the farmlands and do the farming. Okay? Now they're going to have individuals that teach them how to do this. Okay? They did the same shit to the so-called blacks or African Americans here in America. Okay? They did that shit to us for 400 years. These bastards are looking for another 400 years of prosperity where they just make money, and become rich again. That's what Donald Trump was talking about, make America great again. He had to make America white again, first off, so this way he could put white privilege and white supremacy in the forefront, and then enslave everybody else that would not capitulate, bow down, and lick its boots. That's the plan. Okay? And I've already made a video about this a couple of months ago concerning what Donald Trump's plan was on the homeless people. Disappear homeless people, pick them up, and put them in concentration camps is what I said. And in those concentration camps, send them out to the farmland. When the farmers were bitching, whining, and complaining about what kind of workers, how these workers, we need workers. And all the so-called black people was talking about, I'm not finna go out there and pick cotton for your ass no more. Okay? Pick fruit, pick nothing. Fuck you. My people did 400 years of that shit. I'm not going back out there. Fuck you. You might as well go and put me to sleep now and use my body as compost. So it's this way to make the grass in the land fertile to grow more fruit. I mean, that's all you can do. Okay? So Donald Trump is going to shut off all the money, close up all the banks. That's where you're going to cause bank runs. Okay? The people using those bank runs are going to try to get as far ahead as this famine as they can. This government based famine that was created by them deliberately and on purpose. Okay, in order to fulfill biblical prophecy at the end of the day. Okay. Psalms chapter 17. Verse 6. I have called upon thee, for thou wilt hear me, O God, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Incline thine ear unto me, and hear my speech. Show thy marvelous loving kindness, O thou that savest by thy right hand them which put their trust in thee, from those that rise up against them. Right? And the he who sits on the right hand side of the Father is Yahushai, who you ignorantly call Jesus Christ, right? Keep me as the apple of the eye, hide me under the shadow of thy wings, from the wicked that oppress me, from my deadly enemies who compass me about. They are enclosed in their own fat. With their mouth they speak proudly. Right? I mean, it's not an executive order speaking proudly against the poor and the homeless and the needy. Yahushua himself said, you will have the homeless and poor with you always, but me you will not have with you always. Which he spoke about his coming crucifixion and rising from the dead. You see what I'm saying? To be ascended into the kingdom of heaven. Okay? Because he laid down his life for his friends. Okay? Those individuals that followed him willingly. Okay? They have compassed us in our steps. They have set their eyes bowing down to the earth. Like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, and as it were a young lion lurking in secret places. Right? And this is what they're doing. Didn't they just put up a young police officer that you probably works for ICE, okay, in charge of all of this homeless program? Okay? They got rid of Tom Holman because they said that Tom Holman was too weak. So now they're putting all of these other individuals in charge of different parts of the governmental program concerning the people, okay, in order to put them in FEMA camps, man. That's where we're at. Okay? Like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, and as it were a young lion lurking in secret places. Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. Right? So the Most High Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, like it says in Isaiah chapter 10, verse 5, that he's using the Assyrian and the modern day Assyrian of these Edomite Caucasians, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the devil the Bible speaks of, as the weapon of his indignation. Indignation is righteous anger, okay, against a hypocritical nation. And that hypocritical nation are the Israelites, because they don't have a problem worshiping Cesare Borgia, aka Jeebus Crossed, every Sunday. They don't have a problem being a Buddhist, or they don't have a problem worshiping the false gods of Egypt under Kemet and Egyptology and all that other punk shit. Then you got there's Rastafarians, okay, worshiping with the Shiva chakras, all these dreadlock wearing motherfuckers around here. See, so they're all of our people are worshiping all kinds of different false gods and idols. So the Most High is using these Edomite Caucasians to come against his own people in order to destroy 2/3 of them. And that way, out of that 2/3, he can pull the elect, the remnant, the 1/3 out of the fire. Okay? Which is the fire of adversity. So some of us, of the 1/3 of the elect, of the remnant, are going to be cast into these goddamn homeless prisons just like everyone else. But that gives the Most High Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai an opportunity to play Clark Kent, aka Superman, Kal-El, right? And his people being incarcerated by these devils would be in the area of Lois Lane, a comely, delicate woman, right? And then he could play the hero and come and save us. That's the plan. But he's only going to save those individuals that call upon his name. Like it says in Joel chapter 3, verse 32. Okay, that's it. If you don't call upon the name of the Lord, you will not be delivered. And you ain't and calling on Yahweh and Jehovah and Yahushua and all of these other mistransliterations of the actual name ain't going to work. You have to go back and to the history of the name of the Lord and how many different iterations it's changed over the centuries from 2,000 years ago to now. So you can get back to the original name and call upon that name. Because if you don't do that, you're fucked. I apologize about cussing, but I mean, I'm just making it plain. Did not say the Lord said, make my word plain upon tables, right? This is a table, a form of a table, and we're making it plain by taking these biblical scriptures and breaking them down to you, so this way you have an opportunity to consider your ways and make the right decision. Because at the end of the day, life is like a bus station. You're just passing through. You can't stay. So you can't stay alive. And those individuals is already given a warning out. Those individuals that take this radio frequency identification chip, like it says in Revelation chapter 13, that take this thing, you're going to be left here and melted. It's a bad idea. It's too hot for that. They don't have enough water on the planet to cool your tongue. Okay? Psalms chapter 17, verse 14. From men which are thy hand, O Lord, from men of the world which have their portion in this life, and whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure. They are full of children and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. Okay? By the power of your hand, O Lord, destroy those who look to this world for their reward, but satisfy the hunger of your treasured ones. May their children have plenty, leaving there an inheritance for their descendants. Right? Because I am righteous, I will see you. When I awake, I will see you face to face and be satisfied. So there's a contingency plan. Okay? We have hope in the righteous and the elect have hope in their death. We have hope because at the end of the day, the Most High says, like it says in 1 Thessalonians, let's just get all these biblical scriptures because they just keep popping in my head. They just keep popping up, man. Just boom, boom, boom. Okay, hold on. Let's get it. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 15. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of the Most High, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and the dead in Hamashiach shall rise first. Therein lies the precept to Psalms chapter 17, verse 15. We shall be satisfied when we awake with his likeness, because our bodies will be changed from corruption to incorruption. Let's go get it. Hold on. They just keep coming up like damn, okay, wait a minute, y'all. Hold on. Okay. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 34. Awake to righteousness and sin not. For some have not the knowledge of the Most High. I speak this to your shame. But some will say, how art the dead raised up? And with what body do they come? Thou fool, that which thou sowest is not quickened, except it die. So, in order for us to be quickened in immortality, we got to pass on into the nether realm, aka the grave. Okay? Where the rich and the poor, the righteous and the ungodly rest together in the same place, which is the grave, Sheol, Gehenna, okay, hell, okay, which is the grave. That's all hell is the grave. These Edomite Caucasians have intermingled Greek and Norse mythology about the nine hells of Dante's Inferno with the biblical scriptures, and now everyone that we speak to believes that they'll go to hell and burn up forever. I mean, you stupid monkey. The human soul, the human spirit is made from energy. Okay, it's a power, it's energy. Which burns hotter, fire or energy? Fire or electricity? Which burns hotter? Huh? If you are energy and you have been thrown into a lake of fire, it would be just like going in for a summertime swim on a 110 hot day in a swimming pool. Okay? That's what it would be like. You would be having a great fucking time because it's a lot cooler. Okay? You people have no clue as to what the Bible is referring to as hell. Okay? The hell is referred to is the grave. The old, the young, the righteous, the unrighteous, the godly, and the just, and the unjust, and the ungodly rest together in the same place. Okay? It's that simple, man. But that's another video for another time. I'm damn, okay? I might have to make that video and break that down. Shit. I mean, you know, you people, wow, man. Okay, anyway. Take a deep breath. Because 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 37. And that which thou sowest not that the body that shall be, but bare grain, that it may chance of wheat or some other grain. But God giveth it to a body as it hath pleased him, and to every seed his own body. Right? All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another of flesh of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. There are also celestial bodies, and bodies terrestrial. But the glory and the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. Terrestrial is flesh. Celestial is godly, angelic. Okay? That's the difference between the celestial and the terrestrial. You are in a terrestrial flesh. Okay? Once our bodies are changed into another meaning and changed from corruption to incorruption, our bodies shall be changed from terrestrial to extraterrestrial. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? Just, because celestial are the angels. Okay? They don't have sex. They don't have bust off on Mary's face and have baby Jesus. That bullshit is bullshit. Okay? They don't do that. Okay? Okay? For real, man. You people have absolutely no clue about this. It should be called the immaculate deception, because you have been deceived to believe that an angel is going to have sex with a woman in the flesh. Give me a fucking break. They are angels. They do not marry, neither are given in marriage, as it is written in red letter in the book of Matthew by the word of the Most High Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. He said it himself. The angels are not given or taken in marriage because they are ministers and spirits of the Most High God. Like it says in Psalms 110. Okay? There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and of another glory of the stars, for one star differeth from another star in glory. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption, it is raised in incorruption. Okay? Now skip down here, the mystery of resurrection. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. And all of these evangelical Christians believe that they're just going to float up into the cloud, like it says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. We which are alive and remain to the coming of the Lord will be raised up into the clouds with them and be with the Lord forever. Roughly paraphrased. We'll go back to that. But that's not true, because the part that is true is only the elect that the Most High chose from the foundation of the earth to receive the salvation of the quickening, the resurrection, okay, and a new life in immortality and incorruption, and dwell with the Lord, had been handpicked and chosen by God himself at the beginning of time. Okay? All we're doing, everybody, whatever you're about to go through, Jacob's trouble, has already been laid out. Okay? It's already been laid out. All you're doing is putting on the shoes of other individuals that went before you, and you're going to go and do exactly what the Most High wants you to do. Like it says in Proverbs chapter 20, verse 24, a man's goings are of the Lord. How then can a man understand his own way? Like it says also in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9, okay, a man pondereth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. So there's no definitive way that you could tell yourself that there is a free will. You're doing exactly what the Most High wants you to do. If you got up this morning, He wanted you to get up this morning. Because you know how many people on the planet never got up this morning? They did not wake up. They went to sleep last night. That was it. Okay? You better start thinking about these things, man, and stop and consider. Because you're running out of time. I can tell you that. Okay? To turn back to the Most High willingly and repent and rehearse the righteous acts, which is to fear God, keep His commandments, and keep His Sabbaths. Fast once or twice a week, as often as you can. Because during this time of Jacob's trouble, food is going to be very scarce. Water is going to be very scarce. You're going to be on a constant fast anyway. You better get ready and to get on your knees and pray every day for sustenance. Okay? That's just some advice. You don't have to take it. But you're going to do what you got to do. Clearly. Okay? And remember, the Lord directed your steps. So if you direct your steps to rob somebody, kill them, that means you're part of the 2/3. You're going to be left here and melted. Anyway, behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. And that all are the elect. Okay? Whether they've been put to sleep by force of the sword by Esau eating the so-called white man, the Assyrian, the rod of the Lord's indignation, the wicked, which is the sword of the Lord. Okay? He's the whooping stick for all of the heathen nations, including Israel. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. Okay? For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when the corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. Because you're no longer subject to death, you're immortal now. Wow, man. Is he going to let me, wow, okay. Now let's go to incorruption.
Strong's G, 861. Aphtharsia. Aphtharsia.
Incorruption, perpetuity, purity, sincerity, incorrupt, immortality, sincerity, incorruptibility, genitive, unending existence, figuratively, genuineness, immortality, incorruption, insincerity. Okay? So, incorruptibility. That's deep. Okay? So, yeah. That's what it means, man. Incorruption. Let's go to immortality. Right? Anastasia, right?
Strong's G, 110. Athanasia. Athanasia.
Athanasia, okay. Undying. Immortality, everlasting. Okay. Athanasia, from a compound of G1 as a negative particle. Deathlessness. Immortality, where God is described as immortal because He possesses it essentially. Okay? He is the living embodiment of immortality. Okay? So you're no longer subject to death. So, like I said, now let me go back over here to where was I at? 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, right? Now, here we go. First Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16. For the Lord Himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, and with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of the Most High, and the dead in Hamashiach shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Okay? Where does it say rapture at in any of these words? Is rapture there? No. You don't see rapture there. See? Where is it at? Let's see. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds. Doesn't say a goddamn thing about no rapture. Okay? It says, we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them. Who are they? The dead in Hamashiach who were risen first. Okay? So there's hope in the death of the elect of the house of Israel. Right? To meet the Lord in the air, so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words. Right? NLT, for the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a commanding shout, with the voice of the archangel, with the trumpet call of the Most High Yahweh. First, the elect, it should say elect there, because these Christians, that shit ain't going to work, okay? You know, in the name of Christianity, they raped, murdered, and stole everything here in America, and they want to be forgiven for that. It ain't going to work. You got to pay for the sins of your forefathers. So it's going to go right back off into Ecclesiasticus, the book of Sirach, chapter 41, verse 6 and 7. Okay? Well, the children will complain of an ungodly father, for they shall be reproached for his sake. Okay? What is reproach? Shamed. You will be ashamed of what your forefathers have done to these people that had no ability to fight back. Okay? Now, who have died will rise from their graves. Then together with them who are still alive and remain on the earth will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Either way, NLT, KJV didn't say shit about no rapture. Okay? That is the fear of God taught to you by the precept of men. Okay? Now, then we will be with the Lord forever. So encourage each other with these words. And so that's what we try to do, is we try to encourage you. Because these devils, you've seen the video, okay? I put together a collage of 3 different videos, okay, that said all the same thing. They're rounding up all of the homeless, okay, and they're going to put them out in the fields and make a slave labor camp out of them, okay, in order to work on these farms for free, for food and shelter. They did the same shit to us for 400 years, like I said before, man. Okay, these devils do not change. That's the reason why I started off the video with Psalms 55 and 19. They have no changes. They don't change. They can't change. They can't become politically correct after they've been politically incorrect for goddamn 500 years. Come on, man. It don't work like that. Okay, you just can't change overnight. Bullshit. These people are pretending because they have certain laws that stop them from hanging a black man or a black woman or a Latino or whatever from a fucking tree for fun. Shooting them down in the street for sport, just to have something to talk about when they go to the bar, man. Okay? They set laws, okay, in place to stop them from being the animals that they are. Okay? You know, these Edomites, they even have the unmitigated audacity to have sex with dead bodies, cadavers, a necrophilia. If you don't believe it, go to YouTube and type it in. The first set of faces you're going to see of people having sex with dead cadavers are so-called Caucasians. Men and women alike. I guarantee it. Okay? So, you know, like I said before, man, I just wanted to let you know that, yep, this is finna jump off, man. Ain't nothing you guys can do about it. Okay? Ezekiel chapter 4, right? Verse 16. Then he told me, Son of man, I will make food very scarce in Jerusalem. It will be weighed out with great care and eaten fearfully. The water will be rationed out drop by drop, and the people will drink it with dismay. Lacking food and water, people will look at one another in terror, and they will waste away under their punishment. Right? Because look at the women. They get on TikTok making faces about how they taking advantage of the government, and then they get pissed off when they get shut off by the government because people are complaining that they're taking advantage of the government deliberately and on purpose. You see? So how does that work at the end of the day? Okay? You want somebody to feel sorry for you when you took advantage of a system that was there designed to help you? It wasn't designed for you to live off of it for the rest of your life. It was put there as a crutch to help you become a productive citizen of society. But you didn't want to do that. You want to sit out there and let them take care of you and have a bunch of goddamn kids and make more money off of it. See? So now that you've been cut off, how are you going to feed these kids? See? Ain't nothing you can do. Now you're looking for a man. You know, you're looking for any man with a job now. If you can find one with a job. How's that? Okay? Because they're deliberately creating the homeless problem by deleting all these jobs and make sure that all of the homeless people are homeless and making it illegal to be homeless. So this way they can put you in FEMA camps, and the only way out of the FEMA camp as a detention facility, right, is to take the biometric digital ID underneath your skin. See? Revelation chapter 13. You know it. Okay. Verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, which is the beast system. Okay. It's going to treat you like your prey, okay, to use you, that the image of the beast should both speak. So they're going to make it mandatory and make it martial law, make it by draconian law, make it mandatory, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And at the beginning, you saw a video concerning that biblical passage. Okay? Individuals didn't want to take it, they were turned away. Okay? And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. You saw everybody in that video. Rich, poor, free, bond, in jail, free, all of the shit, to receive a biometric digital ID. Okay? In their right hand or in their forehead. So it could be a, a brain chip interface, right? And that no man might buy or sell save that he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. See? So you're going to have it three different ways. You can actually take the little digital, biometric digital identification chip. Okay. You can have a card. Okay. Because it's got the name of the beast on the card. Okay. And all of the different Bank of International Settlements, Visa, MasterCard, all of that, they're all a part of the beast system. Okay. Then you can have the number of his name. You can have that on your phone. Okay. This is what they're trying to do, man. Okay. Because by 2030, what did he say? I think that dude said by 2030, they want telephones underneath your skin. How the hell is that going to work? You see what I'm saying? So you're out of time. You're at the end of your rope. The Most High Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai has already told you what's going to happen. He showed you what's going to happen. You ain't listening. And this is what's going to happen to you. Okay?
All public benefit systems will now require national biometric ID enrollment. Benefits will be restored upon chip implantation.
They're making us choose.
Okay. All praises to the Most High Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rahwah Kakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for pushing 100% truth who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom. Okay. Now this biometric implantable microchip, before I go, let me show you what it looks like. Okay. Hold on. Boom. Boom. Okay. You got a choice. What you gonna do? In your right hand or your forehead? Shalom.